Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is so nice to have you here, especially with the ceremonies coming up. And I want to welcome you to Grand Blanc Township meeting of March 10th, 2015. And we'd like to start out with the pledge to the flag, and I'd like to ask our fire chief to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we have a moment of silence, please. Thank you so very much. And now I would ask for a motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved. Support.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The agenda will go ahead as projected. And now we have time for public comment. Is there anyone that wishes to make a public comment at this time? If there is, please come forward to the podium. Don't everybody rush. Okay. In that case, we'll move on. Chief Cervera, will you lead us in the presentation for your people?
Thank you very much, Supervisor Hoffman, honorable trustees. I'm here tonight before some very great people. We are here tonight to present awards, accomplishments, and goals that can only be inspired by people willing to serve and ask very little. Each individual you will see tonight has the set desire to serve his or her community. It is simply to help each other, even if they are strangers to us in this chaotic world we live in. First and foremost, I wanted to acknowledge all the firefighters, the commissioners, the city, the township that makes Grand Blanc Fire Department. Because without all these individuals, the Grand Blanc Fire Department could not exist. For the 2014 year, both Chief Harms and Interim Chief Bob Burdett led the fire department, and I thought it only fitting that Interim Chief present the people before you and the honors they have attained. It would be an honor to have Deputy Chief Burdett come forward and conduct his last duties as Interim Chief for 2014. So, Deputy Chief Burdett, could you please step forward?
Thank you. First, we'd like to acknowledge and thank our Fire Commission members that we have present for this evening. I believe we have former Chairperson Danny Rockefeller. Can you come up? We're going to have a presentation for you. Treasurer Carl Heiser. Anyone else that we have here this evening? And I'm sorry, Trustee Anderson.
I was typing in the back, sorry.
Or yeah, so you just throw something at you. I'd like to acknowledge all the hard work that you've done for us, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next presentation we have, firefighters receive on an annual basis recognition for their years of service within the department. The individual that I have with us this evening, Stephanie Martin, come forward. I remember Stephanie, when she came on 5 years ago, she was only about getting Stephanie, thank you very much on behalf of the firefighters. 5-year award. Unfortunately, this last year, 2 incidents that occurred resulting with the structure fires. One occurred on September 11th. We'd like to recognize these individuals for their service on that morning. They entered a building that was full of explosive fumes from gasoline that was spread about by the individual. Firefighter Sifferman, Firefighter Cyrus, Firefighter Lawrence, and Captain Knopf. I'd like to present these plaques for your service and your efforts on that morning. Thank you, gentlemen. Again, on November 19th, the firefighters were called again for another structure fire. This evening was a snowy evening, roads were very bad, but within a quick response, we were able to bring a person out of the residence, and to this day, they're still with us. I'd like to acknowledge Captain Alexander, Battalion Chief Troy Branchew, Firefighter Hocken, Firefighter Lawrence, and again, Firefighter Cyrus for their efforts in that rescue that evening. If you guys could come forward.
Hey, wrong name.
Larson Lawrence.
Oh, yeah, I got it. I had shaved, you know, if sorry, they're rough day at school.
Yeah.
I'd like to also mention that Captain Alexander is being recognized by the Genesee County Fire Chiefs Association as Firefighter of the Year for his service. The next award I have is a great pleasure. I've known Kent Miracle for a long time, Battalion Chief Miracle. Come on. Kent's been recognized by the members of the fire department for his service for this past year and working with purchasing a new truck and other maintenance and anything that needs to be done, Kent does for us. Thank you very much, Kent. And the last but not least is an individual it's been my pleasure to work with for over the years. Richard Fairby, who retired this past weekend, decided to hang up his helmet, put the coat down, stop answering the calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. 40 years. Thank you again for my time.
I think maybe Paula wanted to get a picture of everybody together.
Okay, I'll do
in the back.
it. Yeah, I'll report.
Okay.
Thank you all again. We are so very proud of
Thank you
all
guys
the
for
young
calling.
things.
Kimberly. Thank you.
Moving on, the board will consider approving the fire department's purchase of a Pierce rescue pumper.
Well, over the last couple of months, I've worked very hard, not only with the firefighters, but also with Pierce Manufacturing. Basically, what I'm asking for is for basically a new fire. So we changed the fire truck, and it's going to fit the needs of the fire department, the city, and also the township and the firefighters. With that, under the original contract, the purchase price was $829,211. With the proposed revision, it's $647,702.64, which constitutes a savings of $184,989.52. And with your approval, I would like to go forward with this purchase.
Thank you. Questions?
Through you, Madam Chair. The chief,
Yes.
what was the change that dropped that price?
It basically is a different truck. It's a little bit shorter. It'll fit all of our equipment. The other one was not quite fitting our needs, and I was approached by several people to look into it. Once I looked into it, decided to make changes, got together with firefighters, made a committee, and made the changes, and in about 10 months, it should be finished at that point.
Kind of a team activity, the input from the firefighters as well as
Absolutely.
yourself and your experience. And we're glad, I mean, I for one,
Yeah.
really great. That's what I like seeing, so. You know, I'm not complaining that it's less. I want to find out how you guys arrived at that, and that's a great thing.
I made sure that it was going to fit the fire department's needs for the city and township. That was my main concern. And then also my other main concern was who was going to use it, which is going to be myself and firefighters. And they came to the consensus, talked with them several times. At times, it was trying, especially with Pierce. Pierce was not happy with us, but they worked with us. So came up with a new fire truck that's going to fit our needs, and it should be a great truck to have in the future.
And the treasurer probably was disappointed. He was spending less money.
The treasurer was absolutely instrumental as well. I mean, it's basically a team effort with everybody involved, the commissioners, the firefighters, Pierce. I mean, it's been a great experience, actually. Like I said, it's been trying at times, but overall, it's been a really good experience.
Very good, very good.
Good job. Thank you very much.
Just had one other question. On there, it indicates the amount financed by the corporation. It shows the same amount. Shouldn't that be a lesser amount because now we're financing less?
Well,
Or was
actually,
there restrictions in there on the original bid?
The treasurer can answer the questions a little bit better than I can. From what I understand, basically we'll be refunded that and we'll stick with the financing, but the interest will be less as well, as noted in the document.
What I tried to do in the presentation here is show what we had in place on the original order.
Right.
And that financing agreement is in place. And, you know, that's what the interest is, and that's what we're committed to pay. And so once it goes through the process, and the things get tweaked, the purchase price, the interest, and then the financing, because that financing is locked in place. There's about 3 or 4 doors we gotta knock on
Right.
to get this through, and so
Right.
I'm just looking at this, by just carrying the numbers over, that based on the revised proposal that we need to have approved, this is this is door 1, and then the city, you know, we should have about $184,000, $988 coming back, and this is what I'm fighting for. I'm not waiting for them to give me a number, I want to give them a number.
Very good.
So,
Right. Yeah. So the financing was locked and we couldn't get out of that, so we're still using that. So, because there is extra funds, if you take the finance amount plus our down payment, it's off. We're saving money, I realize that, but you probably couldn't change the finance because it was locked in and we're selling it off.
well, we expect that the financing actually is more than we need.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So the difference is going to come back in cash?
Yes.
Thank you. In that case, can we move forward with the motion?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. And with the first reading, excuse me, we will move forward then on the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We have financing.
Thank you very much.
The board will consider the first reading of an ordinance for a water rate increase from the Detroit Water and Sewer to Genesee County Water and Waste. This is a pass-through. This is not coming from Grand Blanc Township.
Do you want to have Dan Potter answer any questions that you might have? It's all bad news, unfortunately.
Yes, actually, I have a question for Mr. Potter.
Why am I always bringing the bad news?
No, I understand
understand all of this, and unfortunately, we have to increase the wages, the cost increases. Give me an update on the Carragani pipeline. How's that going on?
It's coming along well. Road restrictions are supposed to go on today, I believe, in Genesee County, and either yesterday or the day after in Lapeer. So that's going to be key in the process, through the road restrictions, so we can move pipe to the road sites efficiently. But everything is set to go, spring, full bore, and with the city of Flint issues that is going to try to build as fast as we can the pipeline, then the water treatment plant itself will lag the pipeline by a year or so.
At this time, we're ahead of budget and
Under budget, yeah.
under budget and ahead of schedule.
And ahead of schedule, so we're still looking at 2016, is that the date I heard?
2016.
The pipeline should be done 2016 so that Flint has water to their treatment plant. The water will be to where the county treatment plant is being constructed, but it won't finish construction until probably 2017.
Okay. So that'll be the end of this bad news once that's up and running.
That means that for the Grand Blanc Township residents, they won't, the water won't be coming from the Carragani until 17.
Correct.
City of Flint's going to start receiving theirs as soon as that.
As soon as the pipeline gets
Yeah.
completed, their water plant's been sitting there for 1 year, so they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Can I hear a motion then?
On the first reading.
On the first
For the,
reading?
I reluctantly make the motion to accept the first reading of an ordinance for the water rate increase from the city of Detroit, the Genesee County Water and Waste.
There's a- Thank you.
That's roll call, right?
Yes,
Because
it
it's an
is.
ordinance. Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Mrs. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Guzick?
Yes.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Dr. Reardon?
Yes.
Mr. Kemp?
Yes.
Thank you.
Could I make one other
Yes.
comment as long as I'm up here on the GM process? General Motors has decided not to connect to the township water system, but to construct the tank and go to the city, stay with the city system. So that's going away. We're still in the process of figuring out and negotiating the billing issues. So that's the update on it.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we'll move to the Thursday night's agenda. Go with it. And so as far as the unfinished business, we don't have any. As far as new business, the board will consider a resolution to proceed with the Rockwood Drive Partridge Creek Special Assessment Paving
Before we
Project.
move on to that, can I ask one question about the, earlier on the agenda, representatives from Genesis presentation, do you know what that is or what that entails?
Yes, they want to move ahead with the rehab. We're getting the plans in for the rehab building, and so they're going to present what that involves.
Okay, so that's more of a site plan
Yes.
presentation? Okay.
Mhm.
Item number 4 on the
Yeah, yeah.
Thursday agenda.
Mhm.
I just had questions what that presentation was going to be.
Yeah, it's up at the top. Mhm.
Okay, sorry to back up there.
That's fine. Okay, so we will consider a resolution to proceed with the Rockwood Drive Partridge Creek Special Assessment Paving Project. Any questions on that? They'll be coming back to see what they want to do.
Will we have anybody from the road commission present?
They have not asked at this time, Dave.
We won't, and for at least the reason that I was thinking, this is, as you recall, this is essentially a rebid of a project that the road commission had made estimated costs on. We bid the project, and then they thought that because of the timing of the bid process, if we rebid it, we might get a lower bid and more bidders. And that we got the results of that, and they followed the instruction that we discussed at the public hearing. And so the road commission, I mean, they did what we asked them to do, and this is the result. And so we didn't feel that it was necessary to have them represented on Thursday night, because the project hasn't changed. Unfortunately, the cost may have changed in the wrong way. But again, they followed the specific direction that the public hearing, the folks at the public hearing directed them to do.
Okay.
Now, if there is some desire to try to get someone here, I can try to do that. But again, I don't know what their input would be at this point in time.
The only thing I can think of, and they answered it earlier, I think, at a previous meeting, so maybe we could just reiterate that, is that they suggested a plan, didn't go as planned, the cost went up, and I think we're gonna have some residents with questions as to how the process went, but I'm not sure the road commissioner could answer anyway.
Well, and the one thing though I'd like to be able to confirm with them is that they received multiple bids this time. And that was, they thought that was the main problem with the earlier bid. Was that
Correct,
you
we had
said-
one bid,
Yeah.
And the specs were the same, so,
you just got multiple bids and all of them were higher.
yeah.
And I even got an email from the people that started the petition saying they don't want to do it anymore, so.
We don't necessarily, sorry, as I said, we don't necessarily need the road commissioner, because I don't think they're gonna answer it, the people haven't already heard, so, in my opinion.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question, yes. I know originally we had over 51% that wanted to do that, okay? And now it came back considerably higher. So do we have to get another vote from all the residents that signed, whether they want to continue or not? Because the vote said that over 51% wanted it, but I might have wanted it in the beginning, but now I don't want it, so
Right.
I'm just saying if only a few people show up and not 51% show up, do we still have to go with the 51% majority that said they wanted it?
No, what we do, we require that petition to introduce the topic and to create the district. And once we do that, that petition becomes irrelevant. From that point on, we're left with just the guidance of public hearing comments. And so it's possible that you won't hear from all of the people who may have participated at some point in time, if they're not at the public hearing. It's also possible you'll hear from a vocal minority who does show up and wants it to be done. But there isn't a vote for them. There isn't an additional petition process. So we're just going to have to kind of, and I will try to do a good job of laying out what we heard before and percentages and things like that before we begin the public hearing. So you have a base of what we did last time, and then we'll hear from whoever's going to speak. And so I don't know. Again, Clerk Reardon indicated she's got 2 responses, but they were from the original petitioners. Potentially, that usually says a lot. And then I recall that we also had a lot of comments that said this may be too expensive to go
Yeah.
forward. But everyone basically, where there was a consensus to move forward with the rebid. So I think we're going to hear some negative comments as far as the project goes. And one thing I need to do, I do need to prepare a resolution in the event that we decide to move forward. So I'll have that for you on your dais Thursday night. I have to admit, just in my mind, I didn't rush that into your packets because frankly, I don't think that's the likely result.
Yes, Mr. Bennett.
I guess, I understand the concern, with the cost of doing the, repaving subdivision street or Partridge Creek, but, the bigger picture is what do we do in our township as more and more streets are failing and more it's cost prohibitive, for residents to come up with the money to pay for their streets. I think it detracts from the value of the home, detracts from the appeal of our townships. I don't know what the answer is, but it's not a situation that's going to go away on its own, and the roads are only going to get worse with the streets.
I agree.
So I'm not sure what the answer is.
Madam Chair?
I would, at this point, I guess I'm waiting to see what happens in May, right? I mean, and then I know that's not the immediate, but I don't know where that's
That's a
actually
factor,
going,
yeah.
and what that's going to mean for Grand Blanc Township. We don't, if that fails, then we may have to do as you're suggesting and figure out what we want to do here, right?
It won't be a catch from what I learned at the MTA conference. It's not going to be a huge influx of money for our township. It'll actually be a pretty small amount.
And real counties and the states,
Yes.
most of that.
I think, what was it, Mickey, about
Just like you did. Yeah.
$20 per resident or something like this?
That's terrible.
That we'll end up getting?
I've got the amount, so
I think that's the
I've
formula,
I've
yeah.
got the estimated amount. So
That's not going to
I will
go a
email
lot.
it to everybody, yeah. questions? All right. The board will consider a resolution to maintain the South Saginaw I-75 park and ride for MDOT. This is a 5-year contract that will expire September 30th, 2019. We are reimbursed up to $5,000 for maintenance activities each year.
Madam Chair, can I make one comment before we move to that item? Just, and I know why you did this. Item B is the second reading of the water ordinance.
That's right.
I guess we might as well rip the Band-Aid off quickly, but we don't usually adopt the first reading and then a second reading 2 days later, but this is a bit of a financial bind that we're in, so that will come at you again,
Right.
second reading. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I've got a
Yes.
question on the, what are our true costs of maintaining the,
Jeff will be able to answer that.
Good evening.
maybe,
I haven't had enough time yet to figure out our true costs.
okay,
I'm trying to go through and refine the way that we track what we're doing there.
right,
Everything, lawn mowing is pretty cut and dry. We know how much we spent. I don't think I brought that information with me tonight. Snow plowing, and then we do weekly maintenance there also. I'm still trying to collect those costs. There's been sort of a lapse in record keeping in the past few years, so we do have to get back on top of that. But I do plan on submitting for the full $5,000 reimbursement like we should be.
right.
In the past, we may not have done that, but we will get all that money from now on. I'll make certain of it.
Do we plow that when it gets to be 2 inches, or do we just plow it when
We
it's snowing?
we plow it whenever we do the rest of our parking lots, whenever there's an accumulation that can be hazardous to pedestrians or whatever. Well, it is a highly used parking lot. There's a lot of people going in and out of there every day, so we do maintain it well in the winter time. But I'll make sure that we get our true cost back on that, for sure.
Any other questions?
We've historically done this in the past.
Yeah.
I'd be interested with the cost. I don't think it's really substantial to maintain a parking lot. I think we mow it.
It'll be $5,000.
Um,
I can tell you that.
Don't give the county a reason to reduce the amount on this
It will
either.
be $5,000.
Yeah,
trust me.
but also, I mean, this is I know it's not a parking lot, it is in Grand Blanc Township, and it's
Right.
at the inch of the township, and it's something that people see when they come into Grand Blanc Township.
Right.
If we left it up to MDOT to maintain it, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be the standard I'd like it to be.
Right.
So I'm glad we do it.
I'm glad we'll be applying for the full amount.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Thank you. I have a motion for the resolution.
Are we gonna do that Thursday night?
Yes.
Oh, that's right, that's Thursday, I'm sorry. The board will consider approving the DPW 2015 major expense list.
We're we taking that off? No. We took off something else.
No, we took something else off.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, explain it, Jim.
So this is a list that I believe you guys get every year at the beginning of the year. Traditionally, it's been prepared and presented by Dan Potter, but obviously I'll be doing that from now on. This is a list of all the major purchases and projects that the DPW would like to do this year. Some of the items on the list, you'll notice that we've already taken care of, the pickup truck, and I believe there's a couple other things, but I can go through this quickly for you. Well, the pickup truck, obviously, we are going to be working on replacing one of our dump trucks this year. We have one that is quite old, and I believe it dates back to the 90s, and it is in need of repair or replacement. We have budgeted $190,000 for that this year, and we're still investigating what route we're going to take and what kind of truck we're going to buy. I'm trying to find something that fits into the water and sewer function of the department a little bit better than what we have now, but that we can also continue with our snow and ice program. What we have now doesn't necessarily, the trucks are a little bit smaller than what the water and sewer department traditionally would need. If we're on a job site out further into the township, not close to Township Hall, we have multiple trucks on the road. We're making multiple trips, hauling sand and spoils and everything else. So we're looking at all of our options. There's a possibility we may be looking at mimicking the trucks that the road commission use, and possibly reducing our fleet of trucks down from 7 to 4. They have a wing plow on them, so that the road commission effectively plows 2 lanes at once. And we could get that second truck off the road in big events. So we're kind of looking at that. We're gonna be riding with the road commission. They do their neighborhoods with them. So we're gonna see if we can go in that direction or not. We're very preliminary on that research. We're planning on purchasing a snowplow. Obviously, we replaced a pickup truck this year. Whenever we replace a pickup truck, we generally buy that for administration, and then we rotate an administration truck into the fleet. When that rotation happens, we put a snowplow on it. So this is just a routine purchase. Anytime we buy a pickup truck, we buy a snowplow for the next newest truck, which right now that's Dave Hobson's truck. He does parking lots and everything else, so it'll be helpful if he has a plow on his truck. The SCADA, obviously, we already took care of that, but I wanted to keep that in this list so that it was documented well. The city work server we'll be bringing to you. We were contemplating bringing it here tonight. However, I do not have enough information to do so to be comfortable presenting it to you. We're still looking at pricing. It was a little bit more expensive than what I initially thought it was going to be, so we're going back to the drawing boards on that, making sure that it's something we truly need. It's not an initial investment per se, but it's the annual maintenance that's going to increase for us, and I want to make sure it's not going to be burdensome on us before we move forward. InfoMaster Sewer System Desktop Module is a software that Dan Potter brought to our attention that will help us plan our sewer system repairs better. We'll be able to pull the footage in from TV sewers, and it'll be imported right into the module. And from the comments that the technicians have made when videoing, it'll place on a map, and we can view the pipes individually. It'll give us a cost breakdown for exactly how much each pipe would cost us to repair. And it kind of goes in line with what the DEQ is requiring us to do. We have to come up with an asset management plan for our sewer system. I'm not sure of the exact deadline, but I believe it's in the next couple of years. And this software will help us build that platform so that we can come up with an effective asset management platform so that we know what projects we need to do in the future and how we need to go about maintaining our sewage system. We are still investigating the software and still collecting information on it. I'd like to reach out to other communities, see how they're utilizing on it, and I'm still getting clear pricing for the software. I'm not sure if it's the direction we're going to go in yet or not, but I wanted to include it on this list in case we do move forward with it. Carryover from 2014, we're on 6-year enhanced maintenance now. Our generators that we will be purchasing, this is one that was approved last November. We actually just took possession of that generator 2 weeks ago. So it is a carryover project to this fiscal year. That's the reason I included it on the list. Technicians will be working on installing that within the next couple of weeks. Proposed purchases for 2015 on 6-year enhanced maintenance is cathodic protection for, I believe this is our Holly Road water tower. It's currently not active, and it's an integral part of our infrastructure. We have to have the cathodic protection. It protects the water tower, the steel in it, from corroding.
Is that the Benco?
What's that?
Is that the Benco tower or what?
This is the Holly Road water tower.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know there's a different name for that one. And now we're calling it Holly Road. So.
Okay.
But yes, I believe you're right. It is that
Okay.
one.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
While you're in,
Okay.
you mentioned that the generator, our technicians, you're talking about Grand Blancs, our
Yeah.
folks?
Yeah.
We fully are staffed to install that. We don't have to contract.
We'll install that. We'll hire contractors to do the gas and the electric.
Okay.
But we'll pour the pad, we'll place the generator, we'll do everything like that to save costs. contractors will come out and hook it up, basically. As far as I know, it's been our past practice for everything we do.
I thought that, and
Yeah.
I didn't know when you meant install, if that was, if we had the people that were gonna do it all, I didn't think we
Yeah,
had.
we don't have anybody certified electricians
Yeah.
to be able to do that, or pipe fitters. So we do have to hire that portion out. But I'm sure if they could do it, they would do it because they're eager to
Yeah.
do all the work. So, but we'll do as much as we can.
There was probably a day, Mickey, that we did.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
We weren't supposed to.
I'm sure. I'm not gonna look back and
Change
see.
that thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit different now.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but the cathodic protection, that is a very important piece of the puzzle that we have to get done this year. The reason it hasn't been done yet is because we have to take that water tower out of service to replace it. So we have to wait till spring so we can drain the tower, and then the company can get in there. I think that Dave Hobson gave me about a week timeline that tower will be down. But we have backup plans, obviously, so it's not gonna affect anything. We will continue our integration of the FlexNet meter reading system. Obviously, that already came to the board and was approved. This gives you the statistics that I think we mentioned in the last meeting. This is something that is ongoing. Hopefully, I'm going to be optimistic and say next year will be our last year of this project. But we'll see how things go. We have been working very diligently the past month or two, switching these out. So we're proceeding with this quickly. We will continue our sewer line, trunk line brush clearing program. I think we've been doing this the past couple of years. This is something that will more than likely be contracted out. This will come back to you after I collect bids. We will go out for bid on this project. This is something that's better left to larger contractors like Davey or something like that. I think we've tried doing it in-house before, and it's probably not the most cost-effective. So this will come back to you before we proceed. Sewage lift stations, we have been working on updating those, and it includes installing generators and updating the panels. The panels are basically the brains of the sewage lift station. It's where all the controllers are, the SCADA system, everything in there that makes the pumps work. So those have been deteriorating over the years. We do replace them with nice stainless steel panels now, so we get more life out of them. The controllers are better, everything else. I think I did include in here which two lift stations we'd be doing, which is McCandless Road and the Heatherwood lift station. Like I said again, project will be $40,000. That includes the two generators, and then the two lift station panels will be $30,000. I believe in the past we've used our technicians to install these panels. I don't know that that's going to be the case again this year. We do have a lot of work to do this spring, summer, and fall, and I don't know that we'll be continuing with the panel work because those are very time consuming. The generators, once again, will continue to replace those.
Can I ask a question? Are we replacing generators, or are those?
I'm sorry, these are in addition.
Okay, so these are new additions.
Correct. These are stations that we don't currently have generators at,
Okay.
that we have to tow portables to. I will note that whenever we're done with lift stations, we do have 3 portable generators that will be permanently set at some of our water stations, so that we don't have to tow those around anymore. So once we get down to where we don't have to take them to lift stations anymore, we'll install them at the water stations. I'm not sure which water stations those are off the top of my head.
And these two separate agenda items about Heatherwood and Baldwin are different than you're talking
Correct.
about right now?
Yes, yep. The next is the implementation of GPS equipment to DPW fleet. This is going to include our pickup trucks and our snow and ice removal fleet. Depending on how far we get with the rough estimate of $20,000, we're going to start with the snow and ice fleet, our large dump trucks. This is really going to enable us to make sure that we have the most efficient plowing and salting routes. All of the counties are using it. Saginaw County's been a great model for us. I've been looking at what they're using, what they're doing with it. People are saving tons of money just by improving their efficiencies. We can also include mileage, we can track mileage, idling time, how much salt we're using. There's a lot of technology out there that we can implement with this. I haven't even begun to research it yet. There was some preliminary work done by Keith Edwards that I'm starting to look at. But hopefully with $20,000, I'll be able to do the entire fleet. There is a possibility that we can use 800 megahertz radios. Right now we communicate with cell phones. There's been some desire to go back to radios. Mostly because we shouldn't really be talking on the cell phone and driving at the same time. Guilty, we all do it.
It's a law now on commercial.
Exactly. So,
Bluetooth only.
I know the police department has been adamant that we should look at starting to get radios, and there is a possibility that we can incorporate the GPS with the radios. So I'm sure I can convince Chief Stan to help me out with that a little bit.
Nope,
Oh, he's
he's
not
gone.
back there. He was here.
So you can grab the radio microphone and talk in it,
But you can't.
but not the cell phone.
Yes, pretty much.
Right. Of course, you can't see anything on it, right? It's just a push button and talk.
Correct.
So you
Yeah,
can't see
well, it
anything.
depends on what you go with.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of options out there.
And you don't have to dial, you don't have to do anything. You just
Right.
push a button and you get somebody.
Pretty much.
Right?
Yeah. It would help us communicate a little bit more effectively. With the technicians, back to the clerical people, to Dave, to myself, even to the PD. So we're looking at all of our options with that, and that's definitely a possibility.
Right.
Depends on cost. It's all cost driven.
There are some possibilities in regard to radios, in regard to the 911 area, so.
Oh, okay.
So there is a possibility there.
All right.
Dave and I'll get with you on that
Very good. We'll look at
as of
it.
this afternoon.
Oh, all right.
I just had one question on the GPS.
Yeah.
How does that work as far as, because I know we assign routes now for snow plowing,
Mhm.
and you mentioned that it will help you streamline the snow plowing, so I was just curious on how a GPS,
The technicians right now know their own routes. We assign them to a certain area of the township.
and they do it their own way?
They do it their own way.
Oh,
We
okay.
have 3 different plow routes right now.
Oh, okay.
They pretty much are experienced enough to where they know where they're going, but with the GPS, we can make sure that they're going in the most effective path, basically, most efficient path. So that they're not going down roads 3 times or whatever.
This has been out for a couple of years now, and like I said, a lot of bigger municipalities, and I've had the privilege of seeing this at some trade shows, even riding along in a demonstration truck with it. Basically, the computer figures out, you program in the roads you're going to plow,
Okay.
and the computer will figure out for you, okay, if you do it in this direction, you're gonna cover the most ground, least amount of time, most effectively. And the driver can, there's a screen on the dashboard, if we're talking the same system, and he's gonna be plowing this road, and it's gonna say, okay, you're gonna turn left here and proceed for 2 miles on
Right.
XYZ road before turning, and basically, if the driver follows the route, the computer says, this is, your area, this is how fast we're gonna do
Right, so
it.
that's how it's more efficient.
And you can even sit in your office and see if the driver is slacking off or actually doing his job.
Absolutely.
Based
Not
on the
that,
timeframe.
not that that's why I would ever implement.
Right,
this.
but I'm just saying, and even,
Absolutely.
not that this is a problem in Grand Blanc Township, but
Right.
say we get a heavy snowfall where there's 2 feet of snow, the GPS knows where the road is within
Yeah.
like 6 inches.
Yeah.
So you can't see the lines, you can't see the lane, but the computer's gonna say, you left your lane, get back this way.
Mhm.
Right.
The driver can
And
keep
that might be even more beneficial if you have a double wide plow out there.
True, true.
Right? Because that way you're taking somebody's lawn out.
Well, that happens occasionally.
I'll bring that question up later, let's move on.
That happens occasionally.
So does it keep maintenance on that, or is it just a live viewing, or is there backup tape on it?
I'm not positive. I'm sure there's a little bit of both. I'm sure you can go back and view, where everybody's been and what's been, where.
The systems I've seen stores in, yes.
Yeah. And then there's a live view also, Larry commented on
Right,
that,
yeah.
so.
But you can't be watching all
Not
day.
that I have time to
Right.
sit watching where all my little dots are on the map.
Yeah, and again, I'm
But I
not
see
accusing
what you're
anybody of
saying,
doing
yeah.
it, but it's a
Absolutely.
great tool for administrators,
Right.
it's a great tool for the drivers.
Right.
it is a pretty slick system.
And we are extremely efficient right now, don't get me wrong. We plow a very large township in a very reasonable amount of time. But you'd be surprised, I think, once you start digging into this, how much we can improve. So this will help us out. And once again, this will come back to you once I have more information and we have a firm plan, a good path, if you will, which way we want to proceed. We still have a lot of investigation to do. The last item for 6-year enhanced maintenance is to continue our inflow and infiltration elimination project. We have $175,000 budgeted in the sewer department account. This is our LiquiForce project that we do. We're on a 3-year contract with them. We're in year 2 of that right now. We've been extremely successful rehabbing our sewer lining with this. Our sewer pipes, we line them, that's what I meant to say. Our technicians will go out and they'll start cleaning and televising sewers soon, first thing this spring. And then we'll take that data, LiquiForce will collect it, and they will process it. They'll evaluate all the pipes that we have, that we've TV'd, and they'll make recommendations on what repairs we need to make. So this is a continuation of our 3-year program. Once again, $175,000 that we've been spending each year on this, and we're in the 2nd year. So next year will be our last year in the contract with LiquiForce.
So the it's $175 each year, right?
$175,000.
Right. So, I mean, did they always spend the entire 175, or did they ever need more? Or?
We spend up to 175. I don't think, we plan to be underneath that threshold, definitely. And that's another thing that's worth mentioning is the InfoMaster program may help reduce this cost. Right now, LiquiForce evaluates all the footage for us and makes recommendations. The InfoMaster software may make those recommendations for us, and we might have a little bit more control over it. Right now, it's pretty easy for me to contract this out to LiquiForce because we're kind of swamped. But in the future, as we get things under control a little bit better, I think that this software may help us out and we may be able to do it in-house.
So that might free up some dollars.
To do more repairs.
Right, instead of evaluation.
Exactly.
Very good.
Any more questions on LiquiForce? Our fund balance, major projects, these are projects that are going to come out of, obviously, our savings, our fund balance. These are things that are not included in our 6-year enhanced maintenance. To touch on them quickly, the Holly Road lift station, probably one of our oldest, is in extremely bad shape and has to be dealt with this year. We have been toying with either eliminating it or upgrading it. We got good news from Rail Engineering this week that we are able to actually eliminate the station. Whenever we can do that is a huge plus for us. We were unsure of elevations and stuff before, but they went out and surveyed, and it is possible. So we're going to be getting together this week to go over those plans and decide which direction we want to move on. At this point, if we can eliminate a pump station, I would not recommend rehabbing it instead. So I'm very happy with the results. So that'll be coming to you shortly, I'm sure, because this is a project that needs to get going. So it's urgent. And then the last item on here is the District 7 sewer improvements, which includes upgrading the trunk line from the city limits heading south to the Chateau mobile home community. This project we are currently in the last phases of designing. This is one of those things that there's going to be a certain amount of development that triggers it to go. I think we have 2 major projects right now at hand, District 7 and District 8. I think this one is more likely going to be a project that we'll be doing. I'm not sure that it's going to happen this fiscal year, but we need to be aware of it, that we may have this in the near future. Development basically is going to drive this. If we have any more subdivisions come in or large businesses in this area, then we'll have to proceed with this. We will have it shelf ready though, like we have been doing with projects in the past. We've been designing them getting them ready to go in case more grant funding comes along or the need to proceed quickly comes along. So that's that.
Shovel ready then.
Absolutely, it'll be shovel ready.
Heard that term before somewhere.
Yeah. So fun.
Try it, you never know, and you know, the opportunity will come. So that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions. Absolutely.
Yeah, Clark first.
First of all, Jeff, I want to let you know that I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're really making me feel comfortable since you've been here, and then I've watched you progress and pick up and learn and grab hold of everything we got going on. I really appreciate that. The second thing is, either through to you or to Ro, it says $735,000 for either the elimination of that lift or it says for the for upgrade for the gravity flow, right? Is that a typo, or is it just so happen that they are exactly the same cost?
There was a typo on here that Dan Potter made me aware of this morning. And to be honest with you, I think it's gonna come in less than
Yeah,
that.
it looks like we're gonna be able to actually eliminate the pump station for less money than rehabilitating it. So,
Okay. So the 735 right now, you're saying
That's
that
high.
that was the estimate for the gravity feed, right?
That was an estimate.
Or is that the estimate for the upgrade?
For the upgrade.
That's what I upgrade. And it had a lot of fat in it because
Yeah.
we had a significant amount of contingencies in there. But even if you take the fat out of it, we're still going to be, I think, ahead of the game.
And the upgrade would, or the, I'm sorry, the gravity feed sounds like it's going to be less.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what we're figuring
Yeah.
right now. Larry?
We plow, for the most part, as far as roads and streets, subdivision
Correct.
roads.
All- That's all we plow is subdivisions. Public-owned subdivisions.
Correct, right, not private.
Correct.
I think a wing plow is adequate for that, or?
Well, we're not sure. The county's using them in all their subdivisions. So this is what I've heard. That's why if we get any more snow, I hope we don't get any more snow
Yeah.
this year. But we want to send a technician or Dave Hobson or myself out with the road commission to see how that works. They love it. They said it takes a little bit to get used to, but they're loving doing it. Right now, the way we do it, with a minor amount of snow, like this past snowfall, we had 4 inches. We went out and we did what we call cut the edges, which basically we just run our plows along the edge of the road. Traffic will take care of the rest in the middle of the road. With these trucks, we'll be able to do the entire road without having to make 2 passes down the street.
I almost think you'd be going mailbox. No, it doesn't even.
It
I
would
know
be
trucking,
center line,
but
it would
you're not
be-
have to talk about that.
Yeah,
Maybe you can convince me this. I'd like to see how the county does a subdivision with that truck. To me, it's kind of like planting your backyard garden with a backhoe.
right. It seems
a
like
bit
it.
extreme to me.
You would think, but we've been in contact with Aaron from the Atlas Township Garage, and he has had nothing but good things to say about it. All of his truck drivers love them. Because they don't, they make 2 passes down the street, one down one way and one the other way, and that's it. Otherwise, in our trucks, if we do the entire street, we're either sending 2 trucks out or we're making 4 passes down the street. So we're still looking at it. I'm not sure that that's right for the township, if that's the equipment we need or not. But I do know that we need to find a truck that suits our needs the most. We are a water and sewer department.
I agree, a
Foremost,
bigger
right.
truck has its use, and you can use
So,
a truck like that year-round on multiple different projects. But
Yeah.
I got a feeling if we were to pay the money for a wing, it would spend 99% of its time sitting in the barn.
I understand, absolutely. So we've had concerns from Steve, our mechanic, about using the trucks we have. They have an active body on with a conveyor belt inside. And he's had concerns about damaging those, hauling dirt and stuff in that. So we're looking at possibly moving away from that, but I'm not sure yet. It's all really preliminary.
Yeah, question.
Yeah, no, comment. I wanted to echo trustee Kent's comments, but also even with regard to the snow plowing, what I appreciate is looking at ways of saving money and what are our options. And, if the, wing plow doesn't work out, hey, I applaud you for looking into it because we're spending a lot of money and being a resident of the township, I mean, paying
Right.
taxes, you know, that,
Right.
I mean, we're trying to, but I appreciate you looking out for everybody and trying to save money on whether it's the lift stations or plowing or what have you, but it looks like, you know, the things that you're looking at are all designed to save us money,
Absolutely.
as well as, you know, provide top-notch service.
Right, which is our goal.
Right.
This whole list is to provide, quality infrastructure
Right.
that we can maintain, and that we can rely on, most importantly.
Yes?
I just had a question. I did ride behind one of those dual wings on Hill Road, and they do work very well. I mean,
Right.
he did take the center wing all the way over to the dirt on that lane.
Right.
And so he had one swipe down, like you said, I was just going one way, so it was good.
Picture it in Bloomsburg, though. Picture it going down your street.
Yeah,
in Bloomsburg.
there is some questions, definitely.
Well, he's gonna have to go a lot slower, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Was that the question?
The other question I had is, I know we're approving like the major expense budget, however, some of these items are gonna be coming back, okay?
correct. Actually, all of these items that are on here that we haven't already discussed will come back to you.
Okay, so there's no, we don't need to assign a dollar amount
No.
to any of them at this point,
No,
right?
I'm gonna bring them all back to you.
Okay,
I think in the past that when we've approved this list,
right.
the purchases were just approved, but I would rather go through them one by one and bring them
Right,
in.
because otherwise, when we try to do the payables on it, we have to reference back
Absolutely.
the dollar amounts to the
Yeah.
items, and by going to this list, it's a nightmare.
Yeah,
It
these
happened
are
to us
all-
once, and I don't want it to happen again.
Understandable. These are all estimates, and we'll come back with further pricing on them, definitely.
Thank you.
So we're not approving any dollar amounts per se, just the generalization of the list.
Correct. The path.
The pack.
Mhm.
I want to commend you on the desk you got for Amy.
Oh,
I think
you're
that's
welcome.
great. You got
Thank
her
you.
a standing desk because her back hurts so bad. So when you go back to DPW, she's standing up, and as a customer, it looks like, wow, there's somebody right at the desk. Because before, they would be sitting down and people would have to lean in and see if they were there. She's standing right at the counter. She said she stood all day yesterday, because she has a really bad back.
Okay.
And her doctor said either to get a standing desk or one of those round balls you sit on, which
Yeah.
you fall off. There's dangerous to sit on. And she said she'd asked for one before, and you're the only one that's ever came through for her, so I
Gotta make
appreciate
people
that.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Well, I'm come to work, so.
yeah, I thought that was
Absolutely.
awesome.
Definitely.
I was impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you for a very, very complete report.
No problem.
Thank
Thank you.
Yeah, except we need you back again on the diamond blonde
Oh,
hair.
sure.
Is there any questions that anybody has? We're having the same, they're giving us the same price?
Did we
Correct.
have some other bidders on it, or?
This is extending last year's, we've extended their contract for the past 3 years or so.
Sure.
I think this is a 2012 contract, that they maintain their 2012 pricing.
Okay.
We did not go out for bid on it this year, basically because I wasn't prepared to do so quite yet. I've been working with building official Ted Stefanski. He uses them for his ordinance mowing, we use them for all the other township properties. So, last year, to give you an idea, and this is just an idea of what we spent last year, for township properties, we spent $27,709. For ordinance enforcement mowing, we paid $3,852. For a grand total of $31,561 on lawn mowing. This is a year-to-year thing, so there's no way to determine how much we're gonna spend, because, what if we have a drought and we don't have to mow the grass? You never know. So, this is basically, extending Diamond Lawn Care's contract for one more year. This will go out for bid next year, definitely.
If they're keeping the price the same, and it's, what year did you say it's from?
2012.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
And from what I know, we've been very happy with their service.
Right.
That's the other key.
So you did mention if there is a drought, like if we do have a dry stretch, you could call them and say, don't come out and mow.
Yeah, absolutely. We pay per mowing.
Right, that's what I know. I know we pay per mowing, and I noticed a couple times, it didn't look like we really needed it, but I knew it was part of the contract and didn't know, but, so you got the control over that, if you think
I
it
believe
should.
so. Yeah, they work for us, so.
Right,
I don't believe they're locked into any amount of mowing. So I can look into that more and make.
And that would be in the new contract you could sign, right?
Correct.
So you could check that out, so
Yeah.
that way, if you didn't think it should be mowed this week or whatever, you would just say, don't come out.
Yeah, yeah, I'll check into that definitely before we
Great.
proceed.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Any other questions?
All right,
Um,
should I stay?
Yeah.
Okay. The next-
Probably two more.
Okay, this is just for our record that we had an emergency purchase that we let you know about of a pump. And we just needed this in here for the record keeping.
Right. That way, when the pump comes through, we've got the authorization, the board suggests we do approve it, and it goes through smoothly instead of trying to track down where it was approved.
Correct. This is for our Heatherwood lift station.
Just curious, again, I'm okay with the purchase. It just seems to me, long before you started working for us, I seem to see that name Heatherwood Pump Station come up a lot
He just brought it up before.
on our expenses. No, I mean, in previous board meetings, we've approved a lot of work in
And that very well could be. I'm not sure how old the station is exactly. I know that obviously we're replacing this pump, so it'll be brand new. We actually have already had the company out. They had to take the pump back because they're having to make some adjustments to get it to fit the station. This station is scheduled to have the panel and all the equipment replacement this year. So that does not include the new pump, obviously. It will include
right, this
those,
is already spent and done.
Correct.
And again, like I said, I don't know, maybe we just want to kind of keep on the radar. Is
Absolutely.
a station that's
Yeah.
seems problematic.
And I do have a list of stations that Dave Hobson gave me, critical stations, and I don't believe this one was on it, but I'll definitely look into it and see if there's something going on there. It's probably one of our most busiest stations. I'll tell you that
And it's
much.
an older station.
And it runs constantly, so maybe that's why. I'll look into it though. But this is a pump that we were obviously in desperate need. If we only have one pump in there now. If that pump goes down, we're in a whole lot of trouble. So we'll be out there in the middle of the night pumping the station down manually.
And that's already been installed, right?
We did order the pump. It came in. Kennedy came out to install it, but it did not fit in the
Oh, that's right,
station.
you did mention, yeah.
So they're happy to either come up with a different pump or alter the pump so it fits in the station.
And the same for the emergency purchase of the generator for the Baldwin Road water tower.
This was at our Baldwin Road water tower. This was actually last February that this happened. The generator went down there, our emergency generator. Steve Jokot tried to repair it. We had, boy, I don't remember the name of the generator company that came out to repair it. Something, I believe it was a circuit board in it that was fried. The circuit board we had to get internationally, and it actually cost more than the generator itself. It's a very cheap generator that was put in there, more of a homeowner style, doesn't really fit into our infrastructure. So we decided to go ahead, we needed to just replace it. This generator we do have possession of, and it is being installed right now. So this tower, it is an emergency because we do not have a port on that tower to plug in a portable generator. The Baldwin Road Tower houses our FlexNet system and a lot of our SCADA stuff. So if that tower goes down, we just don't need that to happen. We can get it up and running, but we needed this generator, so that's why we went ahead with the emergency purchase. Any questions?
Is that really cheap for a generator? Don't house generators cost about that much?
This is about the price for a home generator. This is closer to a residential model than an industrial model. We don't need a huge unit for that site, so this is cheap for our application, yes.
Cost effective.
Cost effective, very
Yeah.
good. And you'll note that we did not go with the cheapest generator. I did get 3 quotes. Kennedy, or I believe it was Kennedy, I don't remember. Yes, Kennedy gave us a quote for the generator that fits into our system. That's uniform with the rest of what we have out there. The one we're replacing is a Briggs unit. We don't have any other Briggs units out there, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now I can sit down. Okay, the next deal is approving a resolution for identifying the signatures for CDBG loan, which is
This is nothing, this just came in the mail, and they want us to do a resolution for two people, Mickey and me, or Mickey and me and Earl, or two people to sign it to deal with the CDBG funds. But they're asking for resolutions, so we're giving it to them.
And then every year we do the, moving on to the next, the board does a law day resolution. And they do this and have a mock trial down at the courthouse. That's coming up. And then the board is considering an amendment to the contingent part-time dispatchers compensation. And I think most of you have a background on that, so.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question? I know Mr.
Go ahead,
Anderson's
Mr.
question.
Wright.
I was looking through the board materials and I didn't see the proposed policy in the minutes on demand materials. And so I had a couple minutes, so I emailed it to you all.
Yeah.
Free to take a look at it. This is up for Thursday. If you didn't get a chance to see it, it might cause you a little confusion, but, and I can give you some background on it. In July, the board adopted an increase of the hourly wage for the current dispatchers. And in addition to that, you had discussion about a stipend that would be eligible to part-time dispatchers who had served 10 years and who had accumulated 500 hours during that year. And you had, and Chief Stam presented that request, and then you decided to up that stipend from $500 to $1,000. And it turns out this year there was an eligible dispatcher that received that $1,000. And then there was discussion amongst the executive committee board members at our meetings and discussion with Chief Stam about the idea that we wanted to clarify potentially the concept that amount of money is available for part-time dispatchers with 10 years of service who have served as part-time dispatchers during that time and don't receive additional benefits or compensation from the township board in other ways. And the purpose of that policy initially was to allow some sort of increased compensation for folks who ordinarily wouldn't get it from the township. This discussion and this change was discussed with Chief Stam, and he doesn't object to it. I think it's probably the fairest way to put it. But if you have any questions or comments, I'm all ears.
I do. I think this affects at least two of the dispatchers. And I guess I wouldn't have a problem with this if we didn't count their full-time service. But what if they spent 10 years in the part-time capacity? Because they're still working over 500 hours.
That would be okay. But,
I think that's what we're clearing up.
yeah.
We're making sure they have at least 10 years as the part-time.
As a part-time.
As a
So
part-time.
if they hit their 10 years as a part-time, then that would count.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
okay. I'm good with that.
And so if you didn't get it, it was emailed to you so you can have it for Thursday to look at.
Answer my question, thank you.
Okay. Going back now to the Tuesday night agenda. We will have the board's purchase of the pumper and the water increase. Okay, yes, that's,
You did those.
yeah, I did those. So
Again,
we're all
that was a bit
set.
unusual for us.
Yeah, mhm.
And Madam Chair, if you're ready for discussion items, I do have a few.
Yes.
If you're ready at this point. Get myself organized here. The first is, and this is something that Mr. Anderson might be able to assist us on. During the course of your fire department report, or fire commission report, we'd like you to, if you can, just provide information for the minutes of the transfer from the vehicle from the DPW department to the fire commission.
Yes, I will do that. You want to do that actually on the agenda, or do I do that during my report?
I think it could be in your report, as long as we alert the clerk to, to record some statements from you.
I'll report, in my report, I will cover the date that transaction happened and the dollar amount of that transaction.
And next item, we had some discussion and some ideas about the increase in panhandling throughout Genesee County. And there has been some articles in the newspapers about Flint Township adopting an ordinance that attempts to regulate panhandling in the township. There have been articles that have reported the striking down of a part of Michigan's disorderly person statute that has to do with panhandling and to a certain extent loitering. And by the way, that is our local disorderly person ordinance is based nearly word for word on that state statute. And so a question arose as to whether or not this means that panhandling is allowed in public, and can it be regulated by municipalities? And if it can, should we look at some efforts to try to regulate that activity? As I indicated, Flint Township took a stab at creating an ordinance that attempts to regulate panhandling specifically around vehicles. And they finally, after a lot of deliberation and input from the ACLU, as well as input from the Old Newsboys and other charitable organizations, they adopted an ordinance that regulates essentially the passing of items or money or other property out of cars that are in the roadway. But you are able to do that if you can obtain a permit with an agency with authority. Some of the interesting topics that have come up in the newspaper have been, who is the agency with authority? Is it the road commission that has authority over our roads almost entirely? Or could it be a township board that might offer a permit to some agency that could regulate this activity? We had some discussion about this today at our meeting with the clerk treasurer and supervisor, and we were coming up with some ideas that might be good for Grand Lake Township to look at. And among the discussion was an ordinance that was adopted in the city of Kentwood that created what essentially was a buffer zone for the solicitation of money around certain public locations. Because remember, and maybe I wasn't clear about this, the Court of Appeals, or the Federal District Court said that you cannot regulate panhandling in public places because it is a form of speech, and therefore it's allowed to occur. The Kentwood ordinance talks about the idea of creating buffer zones around areas where the public convenes, and they gave bus stops as an example. They talked about public buildings, buffer zones around public buildings. They had ATMs, but I don't know if that relates specifically to private property ATMs. They also point out that if a private property owner wants to prohibit any sort of panhandling on their property, they're able to do that. That might be of interest to us regarding our rather large PUD areas if we want to enter into some discussion with those property owners about that. And so where I think we stand, without running afoul of the ACLU and the court opinion, is do we want to look into the idea of regulating panhandling more closely resembling the Kentwood effort to do that versus the Flint Township effort, which again is focused just primarily on vehicles and has a very, what I consider to be an awkward permitting process. And I say awkward because today we were discussing the difficulty of someone coming in and wanting to get a permit to solicit for some sort of charity in the street. And we're not necessarily experts on traffic flow and what would be a safe way for people to do this. And we felt that inserting ourselves into that process might first of all, we might not be good at it, but secondly, we might create some liability. And so that's an idea that we weren't exactly in favor of. And again, it brought us back to kind of this Kentwood model of maybe trying to set up some regulations that make it known that private property is not available unless the owners allow it. But number two, sets up these buffer areas for places that I think their goal is to try to target places where people are forced to go, or maybe are lined up or captive for a period of time.
Where they congregate.
Yeah. Or do we want to do anything at all? I mean, that's also a possibility. I suspect that many communities will continue to discuss this topic, and I don't know if this has become a chronic problem in the township, or if it will, or if we want to fall on the side of letting the state and federal laws guide us. So with that sort of broad opening, how would you like to potentially proceed, knowing that you're not going to make any decisions tonight or Thursday night, that this will be a bit of a process?
I have a question. If we made it so you could do it on private property with owner permission, would the people be responsible to get the owner's permission before they go out and do it, or do they just?
We would, private property is, they can do whatever they want on private property.
Okay.
So, property owners will make up their own mind on that.
After the fact? Probably.
Right
I
now.
mean, it could be after
Either
the
way, I
fact.
guess.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, they can do that, right?
Yeah.
Because it's their property, they can say, they can regulate it right now without, no matter what.
Yeah, or you could have someone on your lawn. Say, I'm giving that person permission to be on my lawn and ask for a solicitation or donation.
Here's what I see. I like the idea of having a property owner be able to make that decision, because I feel that, A, it gives our police department something to act on, something to fall back on. If the person's not compliant, the property owner, let's use one of our PUDs, for example. The development company that runs a PUD says, hey, this is happening and I don't approve of this, I don't want it, and do not have my permission. Our police officers can go in and remove that situation, dissolve the situation, if you will. And I personally think I'd like to at least look into what our options are. I don't want to wait until it is a problem, if it ever becomes one in Grand Blanc, to have to figure out how we're going to deal with it.
But Larry, I understand what you're saying, but I think most of the people I've seen have been in the right-of-ways. And so I don't know that the property owner really is going to have much to say over the right-of-way. You know, I think the area that you had mentioned to me, they're standing in the right-of-way and not on the property of the property owner.
Well, let me ask Mr. Leddy a question. If I'm the property owner of a piece of property that borders along Saginaw Street, and the interest of my property is on Saginaw Street, there is that right-of-way that the county road commission and the township have for water, sewer, and so forth, and road construction. If somebody's standing in that right-of-way, is that still considered my property to the extent of panhandler? Or?
That's a good question. You know, and for that purpose, I don't know the answer to that. That's something that I'm happy to look into and give you an answer to.
Because prior to Scott's question, my thought in my mind was, well, that is my property. Yes, there's a public right-of-way for utilities and roads and so forth, but I mow it, I maintain it, I pay the taxes on it.
Larry, was it where the bus stop is?
No, it was down closer to the traffic light by.
Okay. Because we can.
I've seen people asking for money on a couple different occasions.
Here?
Here?
Yes.
Oh.
The township.
Hill Road and 475 exits. Heritage Park at the exit near Mira. I don't see them on a daily basis, but I have seen them there. I haven't seen them on a regular basis, but I have seen them there.
I'm pretty sure we have an ordinance, like, even for private property like me, I had to put up a no soliciting sign at my house, and I think that's in our ordinance. If you don't want people to come, you have to have a no soliciting sign up.
Well, we would certainly write, if we do anything. Well, and I think we kind of do have to do something, because again, the current disorderly person ordinance has been struck down by the district court. So we either should delete that or we should change it in some way. But if we do that, whatever we do, we can clarify situations like that.
So if I get the scenario that Kentwood is doing, they create areas that would be acceptable for collecting money. And it might be certain right-of-way areas, or certain intersections.
It's more the areas that are prohibited.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. And they define what accosting is, they define what soliciting and begging is, and then they make, they also create a definition called, and they define it as forcing oneself upon the company of another, meaning that you would sort of, well, let's see how they say, it means continue to ask, beg, or solicit from a person after that person has made a negative response, blocking the passage of an individual addressed, or otherwise engaging in conduct which could reasonably be construed as intended to compel or force or persuade you to accede to their demands. And then they say it shall be unlawful for any person to solicit money or other things of value. First, on private property, if the owner, tenant, or lawful occupant has asked the person not to solicit on the property, or has a sign clearly indicating that solicitations are not welcome on the property. Number 2, within 15 feet of an entrance or an exit to a public toilet facility. Number 3, within 15 feet of an automatic teller machine. And they talk about just the measurement of where that machine would be. Number 4, within 15 feet of any paid telephone. I don't even know if you could find one of those. And then here's one that's relevant. Within any public transportation vehicle or within 15 feet of any bus stop, taxi stand, or rapid transit stop. So you get the idea that where people congregate, where they're forced to be for a period of time, they're saying that it's unlawful for you to approach them and certainly to force yourself in the company of another. So they're creating zones where you can't do it.
How long have they had their ordinance?
It's originally dated in '87. Looks like it was amended in 2002 and then again in 2013. And I don't know exactly where I read this, but I thought I read in one of the articles that this has been challenged and been found to be not a violation of somebody's free speech right.
Again, not wanting to make a decision tonight, and when we have the opportunity to review that Kentwood ordinance, still got some things in my mind to put together. I'd like to have a plan.
This is a very interesting topic, and you can tell again if you just even look around with the local activity news-wise, there's a lot of different opinions and different thoughts, and we, I mean, we're a community that we want to regulate things to make things better for our residents, but we also are compassionate, and we also understand free speech, so we don't want to do anything that's going to be that we think is not going to be fair as far as the law is concerned. But I think it's definitely, and I'm happy to provide you with materials that I just referred to, and we should think about this and decide if we're going to do something, and so we can take it at your pace. Though. Any questions or direction other than I'll gather this stuff up and I'll get it to you to look at and think about it, and then maybe at some discussion point at a meeting, if we want to talk about it and we have some time, then we can take it up.
Would that take the place of our disorderly deal, or were we going to have both? Or
we would have both. We'd supplement it.
All right.
I would agree with your assessment of, or characterization of how we want to approach it. I don't know that it's, I think we want to be compassionate, understand people's rights, but I think, might as well be prepared as opposed to working on it after the fact.
Might as well have something on the books, yeah.
Fix the problem before there's a problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that buffer zone, like they're saying at the bus stops, it has to be at least 15 feet away. I think that's a great idea, because if I'm sitting at the bus stop in that small area,
You don't want somebody,
come on, yeah, at least he's 15 feet away. He's got his free speech, but at least I'm not threatened because he's on top of me, so I.
Can't reach me.
Right, and so I think that's a good idea, because that way we're kind of in the middle there, and maybe we can talk to that county to see how it's worked, because they've changed it 3 times, and maybe
It's updated it. But
they've updated it 3 times, so I think, it'd be nice to talk to them to see how it's working in their area.
You know what, you
She can at
can't
least have some pictures.
don't cost anybody.
No.
Tape measure.
If you're done with that topic, I have one more thing to report. This is good news. And this is a result of, we met actually again, Mickey and Chris and Earl and I met with Terry McGinn. And he gave us an update on the applications received for the superintendent position. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have 22?
28.
28, okay. Gathered them all up, gave them to him. He began his evaluation last week, and he has a couple of different concepts. He's going to go through there, and he's going to separate the folks just based on their submission into those that qualify, meet the minimum qualifications, those who may be missing one item or two items, and then those that seem to meet the qualifications as we had published them. His plan is to then make contact with those who didn't make the minimum qualifications and thank them for their participation and wish them well. And then the second step will be to contact those folks who meet the minimum qualifications. He will send out a questionnaire. He will contact them by telephone, and he will provide them with an application for employment, which will delve into a lot of detailed information about them. There's also, for those that he's corresponding with, there'll be an opportunity for them to have their items remain confidential until such time as we begin to publicly interview. And then he's going to create a category of folks that again, maybe missed the minimum qualifications in some way. I think his questionnaire will have to do with drilling for information about their omission or something that doesn't apply. And he's not going to rule those people out necessarily. I think, now here's where I'm a little fuzzy. I think once he gets the responses back and takes a look at them, he's going to bring us the category of people that meet the minimum qualifications, those that do without question and those that do with some question. He's going to offer his opinion on who we should move forward with. And at some point in time, we want to be able to get you guys involved in the process of looking at the submissions, looking at the materials that he provided them and solicited them, and then ultimately find ourselves with a group of folks, however big you want, that we will begin to engage rather intensely with discussions about interviews and participation. And so we haven't quite arrived at what the final end product of evaluation will be, and we would like to know from you, not necessarily at this point in time, but coming up fairly soon, how you want to review the materials that he has for you of the folks that are successful candidates, and then how many do we want to advance and in what form, and ultimately how many do we want to interview, and how that process should go. So that's something to keep in mind and to think about. If you have any ideas right now, we're happy we can discuss them and we can relay them to Terry. But as again, right now he's in the process of kind of reaching back out to the folks that were qualifying candidates.
So we have a fair number that do meet the qualifications.
We do. We do.
Some very
Okay.
good ones.
Yeah, at least, and based on just, as I can recall, 10 to 15 to 18, a good number.
Great.
I think doing a national search is a great idea, by the way. I think that's.
Well, that's another thing. There were a real variety of people, I mean, from different states, and somebody from Alaska.
Yeah.
Real interesting.
Do they realize we get more snow here this year than we had?
And then it's been colder the last month.
Yeah.
No, sorry. In some of the previous positions, I like the binder that's put together. It's got each applicant's, letter of interest, resume, qualifications, and so forth. I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's a good format.
Yeah. We used it for the DPW, for example, and it was easy for me to keep organized and
We did that with you, with the original, for the
for finance director as well. So yeah, I like the binder presentation. Maybe his comments, on the front page of each section about that candidate.
I think one of the things, if I were you, I would be wondering how many how many packets, or, you know, if you create a binder, how many
Candidates.
yeah, how many candidates and their associated documents will you begin to look at? And how early in that process do you want to start that?
Aren't we going to have a weeding out process with our personnel committee kind of a thing?
Well, I'm not, I know that can happen, but we're not sure exactly. We don't consider that we have any authority to rule anybody out, other than Dr. McGinn's ruling out people who were not minimally qualified. And so if you want to have our group sort out candidates, we're happy to do that. But we didn't really have, I don't feel we had the authority to do that.
We never did discuss that, so.
I think we should wait and see what he says, because he might narrow it down to 6 people.
Right.
And maybe we need to ask the question, right? Can you do that for us?
I think a lot will have to do with the responses. First of all, he's sending out questionnaires and he's engaging these people with phone calls and applications. And I think that's going to go a long way for him of saying yes or no.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And by the way, so far, he's a joy to work with.
Yeah, he's
Very
great.
knowledgeable and cooperative.
Some of them might weed themselves out. I mean, some of them might say, I don't really want it, so.
I think with the DPW director and with the finance, where do we get it down to about 6?
5, I
before we-
think. Didn't we interviewed 5 at least?
Yeah, I think half a dozen would be good ultimately to get it down to.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to go above 10.
And if some of those include people that may have not had 100% of the qualifications, if he thinks that there's somebody that belonged in the top 6, then I'd be interested in looking at them.
Yeah, and I would like to see it narrowed down too, and the top 6 is fine with me. I'm very comfortable with that number, because after all, this is what we are paying him
Yeah.
to do.
And I think they're going to be highly qualified.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you're going to be pleased
Very good.
with the folks you see.
There were no salary stipulations, correct? In the ads?
Go ahead.
There weren't, but when he engages them again, the first time we reach out to them, he's gonna lay out a range for them, because we wanted to let people know that this is a well compensated position, and for those moving forward, we want to make sure that they know there's incentive for them to proceed. Did I phrase that right? Basically?
Yes, there's a reason for them to come here, for qualified people to come here.
Right.
Okay.
But
That's all I have.
We did know the very original one,
Right.
okay, but now we're letting them know.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other business? Yes.
I just had a couple questions that was maybe on the status from Rowe Engineering. We talked about a couple of our situations that maybe you could address to see where we're at. I know you mentioned it, certain things. One was on the Liberty Bell and Wakefield roads. I know that's one backs up, and and it said that we could actually, do an easement there and extend the storm drain and alleviate the problem. I know you've had it on the report a few times. How close are we to completion on that?
Well, the township just has to move forward with going ahead and getting those easements.
So we're getting the easements now, so we'll probably get the easements in
I don't know the answer to that. We've given the township all the information. They've got to determine if they want to move forward with it from a financial standpoint.
Right.
Because there's two things. There's getting the easements and then actually paying to put in a pipe.
Right.
I think our estimate in there was around 70.
Yeah, it doesn't have an estimate on there, on this particular recap. The last report didn't have a dollar amount on it, so I wasn't sure.
We put together a separate package for that.
Right.
Had some drawings on it and the proposed easements.
Right. But this is something that, before the subdivision behind him was put in place, there was no flooding whatsoever, and all of a sudden, we allowed the subdivision to come in there and build, and all of a sudden, now this guy's being flooded.
I wouldn't say there was no flooding whatsoever. Probably there was flooding. It's more severe now than it was in the past, but long before the system was there, long before Mason Elementary was built, it's still
No,
flooding.
I'm not talking about the Mason one, I'm talking about Liberty Bell.
Oh, sorry, okay.
That one, that one, it was vacant land, and there was no flooding, and that house has experienced quite a bit of flooding, and it's been years. I mean, we talked about it.
They have another one
I
of
mean,
those
when
too.
Wakefield subdivision kicked in, that was probably, what, 5, 6 years ago?
Yeah, so maybe the answer, I don't know if you want to bring it together to the DPW committee and have some discussion on how to bring it forward to the board and get forward.
Yeah, because we need to address that, because there's a situation that, there's a problem.
Okay, 'cause it's ready to go at our standpoint.
Right, so I just didn't want it to be delayed. I think we should move on
Okay,
it.
we'll pull together the DPW committee meeting and we'll go through, actually, there's a number of those.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the other one was that Cook property one that you were mentioning. I know that the Genesee County Drain Commission, they originally came back and said, well, I think you indicated there's no grant, somehow they don't qualify, there's not enough damage, okay? Even though it's flooded, I don't know how many times. And of course, the county's response is they're gonna put in a 10-year storm drain, which we all talked about probably 2 or 3 months ago, that said a 10-year storm drain is not gonna do it because it's gonna be flooded.
The rains where he was getting, the flood event and the rain event are different.
Right.
Under grass, but his 2 floods were caused by close to 100-year rain events. It was 2 of them.
Right, but the 2 in a short period of time.
Yeah, one was
So
in,
it's
you're
not like
right,
it's
one
been
was in, I think they were like 2 years apart.
Right.
So he's got 200 years before his next one.
Yeah, right.
Well, yeah, but he's already hit
Statistically,
twice.
it's supposed to be, you don't call 100-year storms, you call them a 1% chance. So,
Right.
you could have any year, you have a 1% chance of that type of, that size of a storm happening.
Right.
So he just happened to have one, it's,
Yeah, 2
one
years,
percent
that's
of
2
years.
years, 2.
Yes. And they filled up his basement. It's,
Right.
Catastrophic for him.
And that's why I can't see where that, it was catastrophic and there was a lot of expense, but they said there wasn't enough expense to initiate
No,
that.
it's a goofy.
What do you have to do, lose the whole house to get compensated?
Well, you have to have a lot of other, typically they'll fund stuff where there's either flooding year after year after year caused by lesser storms. I also, if I recall correctly, some of what they discussed with the qualification of the grant is, it only affected one home. It does. It affects more.
Right, because
more
he had a large,
property.
because he had a large lot.
Yeah, it's something that the FEMA feels that the insurance company should cover because it's supposedly a rare event.
Right.
It just so happened to happen 2 years in
Exactly.
a row. So statistically, they're feeling it's not a benefit for them to pay that money and do it. It's an insurance issue.
Right, but is it?
Doesn't make common sense to us.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to us, and it doesn't make any sense to us, and I think you mentioned too, that a 10-year storm drain is not gonna fix it. It has to be more than 10-year storm drain
Yeah,
to resolve
the
this
county's-
problem.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. The county's,
That's all they're gonna
standards are
pay for.
10-year storms, and that's what they're gonna pay for. That's typically what they fund as part of their.
And there's no other drainage system close to this system. If they put this 10-year storm drain in, is there any way that we can move around some of it like we've done in other places? We wanted more structure, so we phased something out to have the water pass a different route through a different system to alleviate it, to make it safer for these folks.
The outlet, the closest outlet is the Lehman, it's called the Crosby Drain Branch, the Lehman Drain. And that's really all we can work with. Now, there's a couple options that they had in the drainage study. One is to put in a large ditch that would, hopefully capture some more of that volume. Instead of that volume, doing some grading in his yard, shifting that volume over to a large ditch that would be outside of his property. So that was an option too. Of course, that was more expensive. So I don't know if that's what the county's gonna do. So it's really up to the county,
Right, so it's all in the county's hands, there's nothing we can do?
Yeah, the county helps-
Because this
the county's-
guy's been in this predicament for at least 2 or 3 years now,
Yeah.
at least 2 severe times.
Yep, and the county kind of put it on hold while we researched this fund to see if we could purchase it.
Right.
So they were, I guess waiting on that to happen, but it's not gonna happen.
Right,
So
so-
we're gonna go ahead and submit that notice of intent anyway to submit the application because
Right.
there's a deadline of Friday actually.
Right.
So I'm actually pestering the county to get back with me because they filled out the form, we just have to send it in.
Okay.
So I told them, Gerard, I'll hear from them by tomorrow, just go ahead and send it in. There's no obligation.
Right.
But it kind of holds our place, his place in line.
Right.
If something miraculous happens and he finds a bunch more damage reports where we can get that cost benefit to make some sense, but, probably not gonna happen.
So So you're submitting that, so that way at least it's covered if it occurs, but what's the timeline where we're gonna actually, when the county's actually gonna at least put in this 10-year storm period?
I think it could be, I think we gotta apologize here, I think of what you just talked to.
Well, you can
Cubic
check
a
back
little
with
bit
us.
about it. I'm gonna have to get back with you,
Right.
but I believe it was pretty soon.
Okay.
Do we have
I think
a
at
board
least-
of determination on this?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been through the board of determination.
Yeah.
We just need to go ahead and get the plans drawn up and put it out for bids and build it.
Okay.
But I'll try to check out the
Okay.
schedule on that for you, Earl.
All right, I was just curious, because I know that it's been delayed, I just didn't want it to fall through the cracks.
No, that's
Both
good.
of those, because,
It's a good question. I'm glad you're reading those, because that's where I try to get all that information in. There's a number of those that are on, kind of on hold until we decide what we're gonna do. Usually it's financial.
Right.
So I think if we get the DPW committee together, we can all decide what makes sense and bring it back to the full board and decide if you want to go ahead.
Right, and your reports are very detailed as well, Jack.
Oh, thanks.
For,
Thanks.
doing that.
Yeah, and I try to hang around here, so if you have any questions on it, just free to call anytime you want, but, just.
Well, another one like that is the one on Lindsay Lane.
Yeah.
Point in Lindsay Lane, the same thing.
Yeah, that was a tough one too. It's
Mhm.
gonna take some money, it's gonna, it's just, and then it's gonna take more analysis, because
Yeah.
we're taking some flow that didn't go through Lindsay Lane in a certain volume, and we're asking their system to take more, so, and then we're running also through the detention basin, so we have to,
Yeah.
kind of look at that and make sure that that's okay with the Drain Commission, taking up some volume.
Right.
That's a tough one. Anything else?
yeah, and then I think you mentioned on District 7 and District 8 that you were trying to get 2 easements in each one. I think District 7 had 2 easements that you were trying to complete, and District 8 had 2 to complete.
Yep, and I'm gonna take a stab at it. Let me back up just a touch. In District 7, the sewer didn't get put in where the easements were, reported easements were. We did title searches, we can't find any, recorded easements for where the sewer is today. So we're just gonna go ask them. It's an easement. That's our first step, and then after that, I'm gonna talk to Mr. Ladd and see what we're gonna do next. So, but, that one, it's on balls of my court to go approach those property owners, 2 property owners on that one. In District 8, one of the property owners is Genesis. And it sounds like we're just finally getting to go ahead to work on the preliminary engineering and environmental analysis for the Dorr Highway extension. If you recall, the sewer is gonna run right in, a portion of the sewer on Genesis property is gonna run within the Dorr Highway extension. So it'll end up in the road right away when we're all said and done. My concern is that, one time we were talking about that Dorr Highway extension being a boulevard, 4-lane divided boulevard, which would be nice looking, but we don't know if the traffic's gonna demand that. So, I don't wanna ask Genesis for an easement way out here, because we wanna get it out to the edge of the right of way. It's not on the road, we get to maintain it, or if somebody has to tie into it, it would be easy to get to. But if it ends up being a 3-lane road, for instance, because that's what the traffic requires it to be, then that sewer would move closer to the roadway, which would not impact the buildable property for Genesis, future buildable property. I don't want that thing ending up in a building footprint in the future. So, big long story short, sorry, I get all excited about infrastructure.
I let it be a boulevard down.
Yeah, it's a neat idea. So, but the money's not gonna pay for it unless the traffic says that's what you ought to have. But, so with that one, I'm kind of waiting to see how that alignment shakes out, because, obviously if demand from a development standpoint requires that to be buildable, I'll hustle that along to get that. Genesis, I'm not worried about. They've always said they're gonna give us the easement. It's benefiting them the most. The other one's an existing easement where the existing sewer is, it runs on it, just along the west side of the consumer's right away, just across from the proposed Dorr Highway extension. Doesn't make sense there. It's not showing up again in the title work. So we'll approach that by just going and asking. And if it's a problem, we'll have to take it further. But, okay? Glad you asked. I made a big old long story out of that.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that was it, that was the main ones that I was concerned about.
Oh, I'm glad you got to talk.
See, it's been pent off back up there. I can't stop.
Watch out for monopolize the meeting.
Is there any other business? In that case, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Or,
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?